Hello everyone, welcome to Gardening TLC. I am Michelle and you are at Garden Gab. We have a great lineup for you today because not only are we going to answer the questions from all the videos that we did in March, we are also going to share with you the pictures that were submitted by viewers of beautiful things that they found in their garden in the month of March. Now we do that every single month, so you can still submit pictures and we'll preview them in the next video. Also, we have an announcement today because we are rolling out membership perks. I am so excited about those. We'll talk about them a little bit later, but let's jump right into the question. I got rained out, so I had to come inside. We are going to start right in on the questions, and we are going to start with the video that I put out on March 5th called Landscape Design Ideas Dry Shade. This was the video that we did a design underneath a maple tree, which can be really hard to plant under because they really have a tendency to hog all of the nutrients, all of the light, all of the water, and they have a big leaf canopy and their roots grow on the top of the surface. So let's answer some questions that came in from that video. Question number 1 came from Susie Rock 8229. So I get very late afternoon sun. I'm hoping to at least get a couple of oak leaf hydrangeas this year. This weather is so crazy. And back at the beginning of March, it was crazy. We were warm and then we were cold and then we got snow and then we got frost and then it warmed and then we got snow again and then it warmed and then we got snow again. It was just nuts, our weather this year. It was just all over the place. Now she is really near me, and so her question was, I'm afraid that we'll get dumped with more snow in late April or worse. When do you suggest planting oak leaf hydrangeas in zone 5B with the weather as crazy as it has been? So when it warms up like that, we just call that a fake spring. It is not real. Now perennials and shrubs and things like that are going to be a lot tougher than an annual when you put them outside. You can probably plant things outside now. Back at the beginning of March, I would have told her to wait until more like the beginning of April. The one caution I will give you is if you go to a garden center and you buy whatever product you're buying, whether it's a shrub or an annual or a tree, and it's inside of a nice, warm, cozy greenhouse, you need to harden it off. You need to take it outside for 3 or 4 days for a couple of hours every single day and get it used to being outside. I think it's going to weather actually better in the ground than it'll ever weather in its pot, but you do want to get it used to being outside. So now would be a good time if you can find oak leaf hydrangeas, because sometimes those aren't available until later in the year, because hydrangeas are they're not the last ones to leaf out, but they're not really super early to leaf out either. So you might not be able to find any yet, but keep looking. The next question came from Irenas9946. She has a couple of questions. If I may, how much soil can you add to the top? And she's talking about to the top of the roots. She has a silver maple that's 60 years old, so that means it's a pretty old, pretty big tree. Is it okay to add more soil if the roots are not surfaced? And maybe more soil on the outskirts since there's a little bit of a slope. And then she wants to know, can she plant a smoke bush and a spirea on the southern outskirts? She also wanted to know if she could put an eastern red bud inside the circle. All of them are small starters, and then oak leaf hydrangeas. Would all of those grow? So yes, you can add maybe 1 to 2 inches on the top of the roots, and that's it. You do not want to bury those roots because they want to be on the top surface of the soil, and you can smother the roots if you cover them up. Now, as far as putting a spirea in, they're not really drought tolerant as far as that goes. And when they have to compete against that maple tree, I don't know. Plus, I think they're going to need more light than a silver maple has a lot of shade. I think they're not going to do well. And the same thing with the smoke bush. Now, you might get away with the understory tree of the red bud if you can find a place to get it in without disturbing a whole bunch of roots. It is a good understory tree if your other tree is limbed up, because they do get 15 to 20 feet tall. So just know that. So that's my answer on that. The next question came from Sure Franchise. And she wrote, I'm sure you've mentioned before, but do you have deer? And if so, how do you keep them away from your hostas? Deer repellent is one thing that works really well, and I did reference, and it got cut off in the video. I don't know what I was doing when I was editing, but I was talking about Erin over at the Impatient Gardener and how she has this really good video on the specific deer repellent that she uses because she has serious deer pressure where she lives. So I will again put a link for that down below because it really is a great resource and a good video to watch if you want really good information about using repellents to repel the deer. Now, a little bit later, we did a video on deer and keeping them out of the yard and deer resistant plants. So we'll answer some questions and talk about some of those home remedies you guys sent in about that as well. The next question came from Allie Vincent 5984. I was wondering if you have to do any supplemental watering on the Sedona bowls of Impatiens, as they are pretty shallow, or are they large enough to hold moisture? I water them just like normal pots. I don't water them more or less. If we're going through a drought and we're not getting rain, then I have to get out there and water them. Usually every other day when the temperatures soar in the middle of the summer, yeah, I got to get out there and water them every day. But you know what? I like to be in my garden. Watering is like one of those winding down activities that I do at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day before I go to work. So for me, it's no big deal. The next question came from Oregon Shearwater. I have dry shade under conifers in my PNW, which is Pacific Northwest, Zone 8 garden. So this is where my daughter lives. All right, keeping anything alive other than rhodies and invasive ivy is a challenge. Is this a topic you might explore sometime? I think I'm going to have to do a little bit more research because the conditions under what you're growing up there are so different than what I am growing here. I know that when I went to Seattle to the Northwest Flower Show and I went to visit my daughter and we went on walks and we went different places, it's always wet. I actually picked up like a cough when I was there, this cough when I came home, and I had it for like a week. I wasn't sick, but I think it was just all the moisture in the air. And then as I was watching, I was amazed at how much moss and green was on everything. It was on the trees, it was on the wood, it was on houses, it was on the sidewalks, it was everywhere. So it must always be wet there. So I can understand how that would be a challenge. I've never grown in those kinds of conditions, so I would definitely have to research that. I do know that there is a new channel up there in that area called, I think it's called Hello Garden, and it's done, she was at the show and I met her briefly, and she lives up there and is a landscape designer. So that might be one for you to check out, and maybe she'll have better information than I could ever have because she lives there. One of the things I talked about in the video was I don't have a drip system. I have troop, 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 troop. Yeah, I use those sound effects even. I have the overhead sprinkler. And one of the things was Patty Jacobs 100 said, I have the same kind of sprinkler. Mine don't last very long. Can you recommend one? No, not really, because I don't go buy an expensive one because we have such hard water that they get lime deposits on them so quickly. I have bought expensive ones. I've bought inexpensive ones. I've bought middle of the road ones. I just every year have to replace them. So I don't put a lot of money into them. I might spend $25 on the sprinklers that I buy each. And then at the end of the season, if I can clean them off with some lime away or something, then that's great. But otherwise, I'm replacing them every couple years. Would this concept of what I planted work under pine trees? And that was asked by Peonies and Puppies. What a great name. 5197. And I'm going to say no to that. There are different conditions under pine trees than there are under maple trees. Yes, they both have dry shade, but pine trees actually have more of a extensive root system, whereas maples have those great big roots and then the smaller ones running off it. Pine trees, oh my gosh, they have them everywhere. And I have found that when you start back pruning pine trees, they actually, I feel like they sustain damage easier than some other trees that you back prune into. And oh my gosh, the roots are everywhere. So I wouldn't address that issue the same way as this one. Maybe I can make a video in the future about that. I don't do a lot of planting under pines though, because I just kind of let them be. But I know people want to, so maybe I can do a little research into that too. All right, I'm still getting asked this question. I probably will forever and ever and ever, because even though you put it down in the description, I don't know that people read the description. But Melissa Anderson 5757, what design program do you use to show these graphics? And it is a professional landscape software called Pro Landscapes, and it costs $1,500. So it's not something that a normal homeowner would buy just because they want to mess around with putting some pictures up to figure out what they want to do. I am still looking for that landscape program that I would recommend to you guys if I wanted you to be able to do something like that. I want it to work. I want it to be easy. I want it to cover a large range of zones, have a good library in it. I haven't found one yet. So as of right now, I don't think there's a good one out there because I spent a good 2 weeks looking. I'll keep looking, but until I find one that I feel good about putting my name on or putting my name behind, I'm not going to recommend one. We had another question from Angela-CB8BT. Will the deer eat your oak leaf hydrangea? And yes, they might. Hydrangeas are not deer resistant. The next question came from Phoebe Lim 5040, and her question was, are there any edibles I can plant near these maples? She wrote, so far mint is happy. I'm going to try lettuce, but with virtually no sun, I'm not optimistic. And I don't know that I would be very optimistic either. Most vegetables are going to need, even the ones that will grow in the shade, 4 to 6 hours of sun. And if you can't provide that, then you're not going to have great success with any kind of edible underneath this maple tree. Sorry. The last question came from Nancy Noascono 747. I hope I said that right. What about using emerald spreading yews? And here was my response to that. You can try. I am not a lover of yews. And if you have deer pressure, yews are magnets. They love them. So I don't know. They're pretty drought tolerant. I don't know about growing them under the maple, whether or not that would compete well with that. They're pretty inexpensive, so you're not out a whole lot if it doesn't work. But if you start to see them decline, you can always dig them up and move them. The biggest thing is trying to find one small enough that you can actually plant it where you're not cutting so many roots on your maple tree that you're damaging it. I had to move away from the window. I have this crazy robin outside. It looks like a really old robin, like an old lady robin. And I'm telling you, this thing flies into the window, and I have a window in my dining room and a window in my kitchen and a window in the garage. And this morning it was throwing itself at the window when I went to get in my car. And then when I was making breakfast, it was throwing itself against the window when I was standing at the sink. And just now I had the camera in front of the window and it was throwing itself into the window. It must have a nest with eggs in it really super close. And my movement must be making her angry, but she's like a crazy angry bird. All right, you guys, I'm pretty excited. We are introducing membership perks, and there are 3 different levels to membership. We are doing this because it does help support the channel, which you guys are doing by watching the video, sharing with your friends, leaving your comments. All of that is awesome. We want to continue to make great content for you guys, and so that is why I started doing this. Now, there are 3 levels to the membership. The first one is called Budding Buds. I made up all these names, okay? And your perks are that you will get loyalty bags, emojis that you can use, priority reply to comments, and exclusive only members videos. So I'll be making content for you guys, members only. It's $4.99 a month, but these are going to be practically all of them on problem solving, design, things that are practical that will really help you in your own journey of gardening. The next level up is called Bloom Boosters. It is $6.99 a month, and you're going to get everything that you get as a budding bud, but you also get to have say in what the content is of my channel. So we'll be putting out polls to ask your opinion of what it is that you want to see videos about. So you're really going to have some say in what it is that I produce and what it is that I do. Now, I can't do everything, but I really try to listen to what you guys are asking me for, and I try to make sure that I am doing things that will help you be a better gardener, because that's the goal of my channel. All right, now you can also become a plant whisperer, and that is $9.99 a month, and you get everything that I just talked about. So you get the loyalty badges, the emojis, priority reply to comments, exclusive member only videos. You'll also get member shout outs. You're going to get access to the polls that are going to have say in what videos I create. Also, when I roll my merchandise out, like I'm getting ready to roll out some of those plants that we did in February, we did a video on some of the unusual perennials. I'm getting ready to roll that sale out. You will be entitled to exclusive discounts on merchandise that I roll out. You will also be invited to a live stream on design, planning, and troubleshooting. We will do that 4 times a year. It's a 90-minute planning, design, and troubleshooting session. It'll be in January, March, June, and September. We will do it on the last Monday of the month from 6 to 7:30. So the first one will be in June, and it'll be the last Monday of June. It will be when the first one is, and it's going to be all about design, troubleshooting. You can ask your own personal questions. I'm going to have an assistant with me that's going to help me like keep up on the questions and the answers so that we can be as effective as possible in that 90 minutes. So those are the membership perks that I'm introducing. I'm pretty excited about it. I hope you are too. I love that we are getting so many new people. Welcome to my channel, you guys. Welcome to my journey in gardening. And I hope that you are learning and growing in your knowledge as well. I did do 2 videos in March on garden problems and solutions. What would Michelle do? Episode 1 and episode 2. Those really didn't generate any questions, just a lot of comments because the videos were about solving problems. Now, the one thing that did come out of that was a gazillion emails of people asking me to do personal designs. So I just want to address this again. I cannot do personal designs for people on YouTube. There's no way I could manage that. I have 17,000 subscribers now, which is awesome, and thank you. I love it, but there's no way I could manage that. So please stop asking me because I have to say no, and I always feel so bad saying no, but there's no way I could do that. But that's what most of the comments were in those 2 videos. Now we are going to go right to the March 12th video where I did winter sowing cheap and easy gardening. This is where I showed you my hands down favorite way to seed start because I'm not I don't know. I guess maybe I'm too busy or I lose interest or I don't pay attention to seeds and trays. I can do it and then I get them going and then I forget about them or I don't water them and I end up killing half of them. I love winter sowing because I can do it, throw them outside, forget about them, and when I'm ready to plant them, go get them. So that was what the March 12th video was about. All right, the first question came from Cindy Smith 7907. One question: what side of the house do these go for the best results? And do they need to be moistened every so often? Now, I don't put them on the north side of my house and I don't put them underneath the eaves. I put them in a protected area where they can receive some sunlight, but not hot blazing afternoon sun. So they're a little bit protected and I want the moisture to be able to get down into the jugs. Now, I don't know what kind of conditions you have going on where you live. You do need to periodically go out and check them to see if they aren't all dried out. We get enough moisture here that I never have to do anything. I don't have to water them. I put them in a protected area. I use a few bricks to hold them up so that they don't fall over, and the snow and the rain kind of do everything for me, but don't let them dry out. So you do need to go check them. And I do. I go out there every couple weeks and I look at them and are you in there? Are you growing? You know, I just check them out. And right now, stuff's growing in every one of them. The next question came from user-BZ6EC2NQ9R. Wow, I'd have to write that down. I would never remember that. Once the seed have sprouted in whatever container you're growing them in, how do you transfer them to the ground? So basically what I'm doing is when I'm ready to get them out of the jug, I take the tape off, I open it up, and then I carefully just separate all of the little individual ones that are in the jug. Now I do one of 2 things. I either go right into the ground with them because they're big enough for that, or I put them in a pot and grow them up a little bit bigger and then go into the ground. So that's what I do. Next question came from Monique Anders 563. And she said, I'm in Illinois. I thought winter sowing meant sowing in like December through February. And yeah, sure, it can be, but not necessarily. I don't like to start mine that early. I haven't had great results starting them early. I've had better results waiting till March, but that doesn't mean that you can't try it earlier and have different results than I did, because you know what? Everybody has different conditions where they live. The next question came from Cat M772. How often do you water the jugs? Do you put them in full sun? Do you bring them inside if there's a freeze warning? And I don't water them unless they dry out. I don't bring them inside. I leave them out there and let Mother Nature do their thing. And it gets them hardened off, gets them used to being out there, and they just grow. It's like a little bitty greenhouse that I created. And yeah, I don't do anything to mine. And also, do I put them in full sun? No. I think the east side of your house is probably the best, where it gets the morning sun. And again, don't put them right underneath the eaves where the rain can't get down inside your jugs. The next video was on March 19th, deer resistant plants. And we talked about how there's no 100 foolproof way that you could ever totally repel all of the deer. We also talked about how the deer that eat stuff in my garden might eat something different in your garden, that they adapt to where they're living and they adapt to if they're really super hungry. We talked about different home remedies too, and I asked you guys for some suggestions. Somebody said that using the soap worked, and some people said the soap didn't work. Some people said that if they put the fishing line out and they attached noise bells to it, that worked really well. I bet that does work, but I really would be that person that would trip and fall on their face if I did that. We also had people that said that deer repellent works really well, but that you have to switch up what you're doing, that you can't use the same one over and over and over again. And I had one lady that was, I think, a very wise answer. And it was very much that she's never had deer because she's never set up her yard to invite deer in to eat what she has. So she has always been planting things that they don't like. And so they don't even come into her yard. But then we've had people that say that they come through like droves and herds and just totally decimate their garden, which, that is heartbreaking to hear that. Hopefully the video helps you though to find some different solutions or maybe try to make your yard less attractive to them. But again, every area is different. And a good resource is talk to your extension office in the county that you live in. Also talk to other gardeners and talk to people at garden centers because they live there and they grow there and they will be able to help you more specifically than I can as far as what they're going to eat in your area versus my area. All right, the next video was March 21st, how to add curb appeal. We talked about 10 things that you can do all on your own to add curb appeal to your house, which is basically how your house looks if you are viewing it from the street. It's a real estate term, but as a gardener, curb appeal is really how you view your house and the beauty of it. That video did not generate any questions, but it got a lot of really good comments and a lot of good feedback. So hopefully you guys are going to jump in, do some of those things, and I hope that little list helped you want to add some curb appeal to your own home. All right, the most viewed video of the month was, believe it or not, landscape design ideas, installing an island. I did not know when I made that video that many people were interested in making islands. And so I was pleasantly surprised and happy that I was able to help so many people. So that was pretty cool. One of the questions was from Today's Garden 2635. This is probably a really dumb question. And I will say this to any of you out there, there is no dumb question. If you don't know the answer, it's not a dumb question. And I think it's dumb not to ask the question if you don't know. So don't ever feel like that because you don't know something. But she said, I have a very hard time making a kidney shape. Any tricks up your sleeve? And actually, yeah, it's the easiest way to do it. You make 2 circles the same size, connect the bottom arc, and then another little arc at the bottom, and there you go, 1 kidney, and they look very balanced because it's the circles and making of the circles that makes it imbalanced. Daniel PJ, maybe in future videos you can talk a little bit about the maintenance of the gardens, like how to maintain the crisp edges, how often to apply mulch, do you use weed barrier? Excellent idea. I will incorporate that into some of my future videos as I'm either cleaning up beds, putting in new beds. I'll talk about all of that stuff because you're right. Sometimes I take what I know for granted, and it's the little simple things sometimes that make gardening easier later, but we don't think about them, or we do what we know. And sometimes it's a good idea to maybe learn some tips and tricks from people that have been in the business for a long time. The last question was from Nita P 1569. And in the last design, which was the one that we did that was a screen between the 2 yards, what variety of juniper did you use for privacy? And I used a Spartan juniper because you can pretty much find those everywhere. They're versatile. They're easy to grow, drought tolerant. They have a nice shape. They have little short needles and they grow in a nice cone shape as they're growing, and they're pretty quick growing. So that was what I used there. That is all I have for Garden Gab today. Remember, go out and take a picture of something beautiful in your landscaping in the month of April. We want 1 picture. Hold your camera like this, not like this, because, or not Facebook, YouTube wants this kind of a format. But find something beautiful in your yard, take 1 picture, send it to me. We will be sharing those throughout the next Garden Gab which is always the second Saturday of the month. I am Michelle, you guys. Keep on gardening, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.